evening.
Happy Thursday.
We are live with the prospect training with Frankie Shayne and Katie Lane.
Boom.
And so tonight, I'm rolling my sleeves up here because it's about to get serious. Tonight, it's all about, well, it's about to get personal.
Ooh.
Right? That's what we're talking about tonight. Okay. Because when you're doing this business, one of the things you'll find greatly dominates how your prospects respond to you, respond to your business, is exactly how they respond to you personally. In this type of business, it's a business of relationships. It's a business of people. So in that respect, what I wanted to talk about was how to make it personal. Because unlike when you're doing customer service at another store where you have to be nice to each person, but each person's just another person through the door, and you may not see those people again. Some of them you will. You do have your regulars and things. But a lot of times it's like, hey, we're going to shake your hand, smile, answer your questions, and send you on your way. This type of business, it's very different.
Right.
It's very personal. You get to know these people.
Yes.
One-on-one. You're talking with them. You're helping them. You're training them. So in this type of business, it does need to be more personal because first and foremost, not only are you selling an opportunity, but you're selling yourself to those people. You're selling the relationship that you can offer them, the support that you can offer them, the connection that you can offer them. So in this type of company, in this type of business, it is a business of people.
Yeah.
No matter how you look at them or what company you're in, it's a business of people. It's a business of relationships. Yeah. So what I want to talk about tonight was let's get personal. So I put some things on my good old I didn't bring my old school pen and paper tonight. So I'm trying
a shame.
I know, trying to step into the new age. So first off, some of the simple things you can do, and this can be in your first conversation. This can be in a follow-up conversation. Obviously, you don't want to spill the beans to anyone and everyone because sometimes you're going to get on there, people just aren't interested. But once you have someone's interest, once people have shown that they are looking into your opportunity and they want to know more, then there's some simple things you can do that you would do in any other relationship.
Right.
Okay. So you want to ask things, you want to find out things about them, like, do they have kids? Are they married? What are some previous jobs they have? Are they currently working a job? What are their hobbies? What are the things that they like to do in their off time? What are the things they're passionate about that drive them to want to be into this type of a company?
Right.
Because most people, when they look at network marketing, when they look at a home-based business, the real kind of holy grail of that is to be able to make enough money that you can do the things you love in your free time and still make money. You can still make a living and still enjoy time with your kids, time with your family, time on the golf course, time at the gym, time
while you're sleeping.
Yeah. Time to take naps in the middle of the day, time for 7 meals a day, whatever it is. So find out what those things are for people. Find out things about them, find out birthdays, find out, wedding anniversaries and things like that. As you get to know them, obviously, as I mentioned, the first call when you're prospecting someone and you're just introducing the opportunity to them, you don't want to.
Right.
Like,
not too much.
Yeah, you're not too much.
Yeah.
It's a little weird, but once you've established a connection with them and you're pulling them into this business, or maybe they've just signed up, maybe they're on the cusp of signing up, start to get to know more about them because they're going to be your partner in this.
Right.
They're going to be what helps keep your business moving and vice versa.
Right.
And so it's very important to not just make it so cut and dry.
Yes.
In this business, it really, really helps. And this type of business lends to having a good relationship with each and every one of your leaders.
Yeah.
Okay. So getting to know things like that, if they have kids, married, job, those are basic things you can know about someone. I mean, many of us have probably worked jobs, 9 to 5 jobs, some of us in factories, flipping burgers, retail, whatever. And you may not know everything about all of your employees, but most of the time you'll know if you'll at least know if they're married, if they have kids,
right.
In just small talk, you'll figure that out. So it's the same courtesy you would give people in that respect, but that's kind of opening the door. Another thing you want to do is you want to understand the reason for the interest in this. I kind of alluded to this a second ago, but people get involved in network marketing for different reasons. One, like I said, the holy grail is so that you can make money and not have to be working tirelessly all the time, and be able to spend time with your family, be able to follow your passions. These are things that are kind of the holy grail. It's the thing that we look for in this type of business.
Right.
But you need to understand what their purpose is. Some people, I've talked to people that want to make more money because they want to be able to give more money away. They're humanitarians. They want to be able to help people. They want to be able to help charities and certain causes. That's great. And that's wonderful. But just like the person that wants to collect cars, you've got to have the funds to do it.
Right.
Okay. But what your job will be is through learning and getting to know more about your prospect and getting more personal with them, is understanding what it is about this business that draws them. What is it that attracts them
Right.
to this business? And then you can build with them and help them to achieve those goals and help them to understand how our business can help facilitate that simply by understanding it.
Right.
You can't help them to know how this business can work if you don't even know what their passions are.
Right.
I mean, they've just become another blanket prospect that you're just running through your presentation with.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to give you a story, actually. Story time with Frankie again.
Whoa.
I spoke with a gentleman the other night. I was doing some training calls, some three-way training, and we happened to catch a guy. Ironically, it was the last call of our hour-long session. And we had been hitting a lot of, as a lot of us do, we're getting a lot of voice messages. We're getting a lot of, people that answer, "Oh, I can't talk right now," the usual, which you tend to get with cold calls. It's a tough way to go, but it's a great way to learn.
Right.
Because you're thin, your skin thickens when you do cold calls. You learn that no isn't going to destroy your world. It's not
Right.
going to crush you.
It probably gets you in a really good mindset for prospecting.
Yeah, it really does. You learn to, what's the right way to say this? You learn that each call is a great opportunity to get someone, but you learn that the entire weight of your business does not rely on every single number you dial.
Right.
Because when you first start this, you think every single number is going to be the one. And so you put so much weight and so much effort into that one call that when you make that call and you get rejected or you don't get someone, it takes the wind out of your sails. When you're doing hundreds of cold calls a day, you begin to understand that, you know what, let's go through these and let's take each one at face value. And if someone opens the door for me to talk to them about this, I'm going for it.
Right.
And so you learn to prioritize these things.
Right.
But this gentleman, he was the last call we made, and oddly enough, he was extremely nice. And when I explained to him about our company and stuff, he said, he goes, "I really appreciate you calling me." He goes, "And I can tell by the way your voice and the manner in which you're speaking, you're excited about your company, you're excited about your products." He said, and I can tell that, you really believe in what you're doing. And he said, "And I want you to know I appreciate that." He said, "I've been in the industry." He goes, "I've done a couple different companies. I've been with the same company the last 15 years. And he said, "It's funny that in this industry that we work more hours to get this thing off the ground than people would normally work at a 40-hour job. But once it's off the ground, we work less hours and make more money."
Right.
And he's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, because he's made money. He still has a business in this company, so he's got some residuals. But he has taken all of his money, he's invested it into a passion project of his, which is a project that it's a children's cartoon series that teaches them and educates them and entertains them. And he said that he was fed up with what a lot of the stuff he sees for kids on television.
Yeah.
He said a lot of it's misleading, and nowadays so many cartoons that come out are literally more adult in nature than they are for kids. And the kids ones are the lines are getting blurred. Yeah. So he wanted something that was good content that taught kids, and that's his passion. That was what drove him for the last half of the time he was doing this. When he started making money, he's had this thing building for the last 10 years.
Right.
And so that's a perfect example. Here's a guy who was successful in it, who chose to put in the work, put in the time, and take the no's as well as the yeses and build and work with his team, and created this business that now he's able to enjoy that and invest in something that he's passionate about, something he loves and he wants to do. So that's why it's important to understand with people, what is it about this business that draws them to it? What is their passion? What is their hot button, if you will? What is the motivation behind them getting in this company? Again, you can learn that when you become more personal with people. You can ask people that on the first call. Sometimes you do. You're like, well, what are your dreams? What are the things you're thinking of? And what is it about this business? But when you get to know someone personally, you can delve a little deeper into that, and you can really connect with them and show them the support of, hey, I want to help you get there. You know, you can, in a sense, you can transfer and take some of that passion they have and use it to fuel you, because you don't want to let them down in chasing their passion, you know? So it's just a really, that's one of those points that I think I could not stress enough, is understanding what people are passionate about and why this company, how this company can fulfill that, and showing them that.
Which we actually talked about that a couple weeks ago on the Monday night training.
Yeah, I remember that.
Purpose over goals. And it's interesting that it not only works for yourself in trying to achieve your own goals and lay out your own goals, but it also helps when you know your prospects' goals. It helps when you know your team's goals, because then you can help them achieve their goal, which also in turn helps you achieve your goal. And it's kind of like a cycle, you would think. And it just works that way. And another thing that I thought about when you were talking was when you'd said that you go through the leads and you give like 100% to each person, because you give your all to that person. You take them one call at a time. A story that I was reminded of was when Lauren and Shayne were in India. They had meetings back to back. And one of the individuals,
hours.
One of the individuals were there, if I'm understanding correctly, they were there for multiple meetings and they hadn't said anything, but they stayed for multiple meetings. And at the end of multiple meetings, he came up to either one of you or both of you and said, I want to join this because of the information, but also because every presentation you started it like it was the first presentation of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you think about it, that is the mindset you should have every time you come into contact with somebody. And we've talked about this before, knowing the value of the person that you're talking to. But how are you going to know that value if you don't treat each person with the same value and then see how it goes eventually? That's kind of the idea that strategy that you should have when talking to people.
It goes back to that principle that when you treat someone good, or you give someone that type of attention, it says less about you, or less about them and more about you. It's the type of person that you are, that you put that type of priority on each person. And that was what that gentleman, I remember that was what that gentleman was talking about. He came up to both of us when we both had a breather, because it was interesting. We were in a hotel suite in Kolkata, and these guys would say, okay, we're going to do some meetings. We got a big meeting with 3 or 4 people, big leaders. They're coming in. We're going to do it at 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, one would show up. And we would wait, we'd talk with them, and we'd have tea, and we would, say, okay, we've got others coming. And they would keep kind of okey doking us. Yeah, we're on our way. So we would just say, you know what, let's just go ahead. We'll give you the presentation because you have a schedule. You got to go somewhere else. We would give that whole presentation, and, I would give my part, she would get her part, and they would be interested. We would start going through the sign-up process, and just about the time they're leaving, we think we've got a breather. Here comes the other 2 that were late. And so it ended up being, there were several days like that it was just, we would start meetings at like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and we'd go till midnight, and just back to back to back to back to back. And, but yeah, it was, that gentleman had been there through several of them, and he made a mention. He's like, well, you didn't ever start like, oh God, okay, well, let's just pick up where I left. So we always start each one from the very beginning, from the very top, and each person got a full 100% attention. And that's the way you have to be with your prospects. You have to be that way. And, we're talking about prospects, these that we're talking about tonight, when we're saying make it more personal. These are people that you not only have done the initial prospecting, but these are people that have shown, yes, I'm interested, but I'm not ready yet. I need more information. Or, sometimes people will put you off for a month or two for legitimate reasons. They can't get started and they're truly interested, but they take that time to learn more about the business. So that's your time to learn more about them,
Right.
and to get more personal with them, so that people will join many times on loyalty to the person that introduced them.
Mhm.
So there are people that will join strictly because of Caitlin, because she's connected with them, or strictly because of me, because I've connected with them,
Right.
strictly because of you, because you were the person that connected with them and brought them into this. So there becomes this kind of familiarity, this loyalty there. So that's where the relationship comes in. If they're just another number to you and you've got 10 people you've been talking to and they're just another one in the line, just get them in, get them out.
Right.
People can tell that.
Yeah.
So you want to make it personal with each and every individual.
And another thing that I think that I've mentioned this before, and I don't remember if it was on a team training or one of these prospecting trainings, but Jason had talked to a prospect one time, and he had talked to them for about an hour.
Wow.
And at the end of the conversation, the guy was like, yeah, hey, so I love everything that you shared about this opportunity, and I actually want to join.
Right.
And Jason got off the phone and he was like, hey, great. Oh, wait, I didn't share literally lickety split about 4Life in that whole conversation.
Right.
Nothing about networking,
Right.
nothing even related.
Right.
All he did was be personable with this person,
Right.
started the conversation out like a normal lead,
Right.
hey, I got your information on this ad. So I just wanted to ask, a couple questions, see if this is a good fit for you and I, and kind of just see where we're going. So what, asking him a question, what is your experience in this industry? What intrigued you about this ad? Those are all things that are related to, finding out what the person is interested in.
Right.
And then from there, it was all small talk.
Right.
Or not completely small talk,
Right,
but connecting with him.
Right. Exactly.
And at the end of the conversation, he was like, done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah. And see, that's
Yeah.
it. That's the hook, is like we talked about fishing last time.
Mhm.
That's one of your hooks.
Right.
One of your hooks is that you have to sell yourself to that person as much
Right.
as you're selling the opportunity.
Mhm.
So, that's a great story, because it relates exactly to what we're talking about, is that, you've got someone that's willing to sign up simply because they relate to you
Right.
personally.
Mhm.
Had nothing to do, very little to
And
do
you
anyway.
didn't even realize
Yeah, didn't even
it.
give a presentation on the opportunity, but they were able to connect in a way that they wanted to join.
Right.
So that's priceless. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Mhm.
Now, the next thing is expose something about yourself to your prospect that they can relate to. This is something that I've found in a lot of prospecting situations that has come in very handy for me personally, that helps people connect, is as you begin to learn things about their hobbies, you learn things about their likes and dislikes and their jobs they've had before, and all these different things in their life. Many times when you have an experience that connects with that, you can say, that reminds me of this happened to me,
Mhm.
or that reminds me of this, or say, hey, I know you mentioned that you were in band in high school, man. I've been big into music my whole life, and I've done this and that.
Right.
Those are things you can do, that you're sharing something about yourself now
Mhm.
that connects to the experiences that they've had. So now you are on a common thread.
Right.
It's not just,
It's a connection.
yeah, it's a connection. Now
Yeah.
you've been like, hey man, what'd you think about the UFC fight? Like, if they're
Right.
into combat sports, or hey, what'd you think of, you got the same favorite team as I do in the NFL. What about the Cowboys, or what about the Chiefs, or what about the, whatever your team is. These are things that you can connect with. A lot of times, simple things, TV shows is a great one.
Right.
Which is crazy, but it's a great one to connect with people on. Ted Lasso, I see Lonnie's on here. Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
I showed him one Ted Lasso, and I just found it one day and watched it and fell in love with the show. And now he told me, he's like, man, I've watched the whole season. That thing's great. So I mean, little things like that, TV shows,
Right.
bands, artists, what coffee. That would be Caitlin's hook. It's like start talking different types of coffee drinks. Lauren would be tea or something like that. Those little things that sometimes we think is just, oh, well, this is my thing, or what.
Right.
You'd be surprised how much that can open a conversation.
Yes.
I can have a conversation with a complete stranger based on, I see a
Little
t-shirt
things.
they're wearing that's a band that I'm aware of. And I just mentioned that band, not even to do with the company, just on a plane,
Right.
small talk, whatever. I can connect with people and I can open a complete conversation. It drives my wife nuts, but I can open a complete conversation on the most minute little detail of what they are. But that's what it's about. It's about paying attention, and the little things they say will give you cues that you can then connect with them on.
Right.
So don't be afraid to expose something about yourself to them that, again, opens another pathway for that connection.
Right. Yeah, I like
You know,
that.
we don't have to always be so guarded. I think sometimes we are so guarded that we're afraid to open up to anyone, that we expect them to give us all their information,
Right.
but we're scared to share any information. And I think it's okay to do that. I think that again, that's that relationship building that shows that trust, you know.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, is like, if you do start your relationship or connection out with that person being actually genuinely interested in the things that they are interested in,
Right.
that makes it a lot easier once they join your team to stay in contact with them.
Right.
Because a lot of people, I think, when they go through like the daily, weekly, or monthly checklist, and it talks about connecting with your team, making sure you're staying in contact with your team, they're like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to talk about.
Right.
Like, I haven't talked to this person in forever.
Right.
And it's only been business based. Well, that's probably why you guys haven't talked to each other in forever. And when you only keep your communication business related, and maybe that will work for some people,
Right.
but you're in a business of people. So certain things that work for you aren't going to work for the person that's under you, or aren't going to work for the person above you. So you're gonna have to evolve a little bit and work, you know, ebb and flow basically with what's happening, and just realize that some people may like small talk, some people may not. And all you have to do is just make a note of that.
Yeah, exactly. Again, taking notes of the little things,
Right.
you know. That it reminded me, there's a distributor that's been in this business for a long time. It's a good friend of mine. He's in New York, and we may not talk sometimes for a month or two because he's busy, and he'll say, hey, can we talk? And I'll say, yeah. And then he gets busy or I get busy, and then we have to do it a day or two later.
Right.
But we have a common thread of being involved in fitness. We both love combat sports, MMA, bodybuilding, stuff like that. And he actually sponsors an IFBB bodybuilder. He gives them Pro TF and Rio Vita and stuff for them as their to support him. It's actually a female bodybuilder, actually. And then he has several MMA, like legacy MMA people that that he sponsors their gym, sponsors their athletes. But him, we can go a month or two without talking, and then when we talk, we pick up right where we left off.
Right.
Because, you know, we talk a little business because he's like, hey, I've got this person, what would be good for them for recovery, for this or that. And then from there, we just talk about, you know, hey, did you see the fight, or did you see this or that's that? So yeah, I mean, that's really a great point, is that when you connect with them on things outside of just the business, you can find a connection with them that will maintain longer.
So I do have a question. So if you were to come into contact, because you're a natural talker, if you were to come into contact with somebody who is not a natural talker, and like you were calling them up, maybe it's not even the fresh first contact of the person,
Right.
because that's more business based.
Right, exactly.
But say it's a couple times later, like, what is your mindset when you go into it? Do you feel like you still look for those little moments where you can just shortly relate to them? Like,
yeah, what I've found is that I've found that most people, even people that aren't talkers, still enjoy the conversation with someone. They enjoy the interaction.
Yeah.
They may not be the type of person that will find or pick the topic. They're not going to be the first one to bring up the topic. But if I've done my job up to that point, and I've asked enough questions to find the right things, I can get them to talk. I can get them to open up. And that's true for anybody.
Right.
Anybody can do that. It's just a matter of paying attention to the small details, because those type of people who are not natural talkers, who are very introverted, they're not going to give you a huge cue.
Right.
What they're going to say is something very subtle, generally in passing. But when you're paying attention, you'll catch it.
Right.
You know, they'll say, yeah, well, you know, I went to college and on a scholarship for this, and I did this and that. Well, you pay attention, what scholarship was it? Because
Right.
that shows they had a passion or they were good at that.
Yes.
And you bring it back to that.
Mhm.
So there's little things that you can do to even get people who are quiet, who are not natural talkers, to open up. Now, the trick is getting those people to do their own prospecting as they get going, because they have a hard time starting off, you know. So that's where the automated systems come into play, because it does a lot of the work for you.
Right.
So that you don't have to be a big talker. You don't
Right.
have to be all that. If you can sprinkle information to people, which most people, if they're trying to build a business, they can at least do that.
Right.
If you can sprinkle information to people and then tie them into the right systems, you're golden.
Right. Yeah, because like the postcard system.
Postcard
would be a
system
great
is
one.
still killing it. And you know, you're a tech person. Doesn't it strike you odd that after all this time that postcards still do so well?
Yes.
The percentages of response, now I'm
Mhm.
not saying signups, but the percentage of response has stayed fairly consistent.
Yes.
And it blows my mind. But I know pandemic changed a lot of that too,
Mhm.
because pandemic, they said that a lot of people started getting back into, was it calligraphy and handwriting
Yes.
letters and notes, because everyone was holed up for a while.
Right.
So all these people started scrapbooking. They
Mhm.
started getting into calligraphy. People that I guess nowadays most kids don't learn cursive, but kids started looking up cursive and all these things, right? And so mailing pieces became kind of a thing again,
Yeah.
because when you're sitting at home and everything's right here in the palm of your hand, it's nice to also the mailman brings something that's
Yes.
tangible, that's, you know, that's you can actually touch and feel.
Right.
And it's, you know, so it's amazing to me that after all this time, our postcard system is still our most popular system.
Mhm.
Part of that is because it's inexpensive,
Right.
but you know, people are still getting responses from them. And
Right.
so, you know, but that's a great one for people who, you know, aren't necessarily natural talkers, as
Right.
you mentioned. But it's a great question though. Thank you.
Mhm.
Because that is something that people overlook sometimes. They think, well, yeah, but they hear us talking and they think, oh yeah, it works for you.
Right.
But what, you know, I'm not someone that can just fire up a conversation with a complete stranger.
Yes.
Okay, then, well, there's systems for that, you know, just like there's an app for that type of thing.
Right.
Which brings us to our next point, which is a perfect segue, because it is, don't be afraid to simply chat with them
Right.
on subjects that aren't related directly to the business.
Yeah.
So we kind of already covered that one, so I won't really expound on it, but that's a great one. It really is, because you can get people to open up, kind of let their guard down when you're talking small talk, and then you'll learn more about them that
Right.
will help you to help them.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what this is about. It's about you helping them, and you can be more effective at helping them when you have a better understanding of what's going to work for them and what it is that is their passion and things.
Right.
So, and then the last thing I want to mention, which our timing's been really good on these most of the time.
I know.
The last thing is take note of important things mentioned in the conversation. Now, different than what we were just talking about. We're talking about little signals they give you so you know what's open about. This is more something that's just a courteous thing to do. We talked about postcards, so this goes into that. Learn things by things that they say about, and I know this sounds dark, but about like hospitalizations. A lot of times people say, man, you know, I'm still looking into this. I'm still really interested, but my grandmother just went into the hospital.
Right.
Take note of that.
Mhm.
Send them a thank you, or not thank you card, a get well card, or send
Yeah.
them flowers or a sympathy card. Take note of kids' birthdays.
Right.
Take note of anniversaries. Take note of if they're saying, yeah, this Saturday my kid's got a game they're really excited about. Remember that. So next time you talk to them, hey, who won the game? How'd your kid do? You
Yes.
know, little things like that go a long way with people, because it shows that they're important to you besides just being a way into
A
your
connection.
pocket. Yeah. It's like, wow, they legit would call me even if it wasn't to do with the business, just to check up on me.
Right.
That makes me
Genuine
feel cared for. It makes me feel
Mhm.
good. And everybody's looking for that. I don't care if you're in this business or not. Everybody's looking for people out there that are willing to take time and value them.
Right.
And so you need to show them the value they have to you outside of helping your business to get a paycheck.
Right.
They need to feel like they're valuable to you as a friend. They're valuable to you as someone who you depend on, who
Right.
there's a loyalty there, a shared loyalty, both from them and to them. And something you mentioned earlier that I was going to come back around to was where you were talking about how it kind of goes around.
Mhm.
Well, you understand that if you're, and this is a big principle in professional networkers and in Diamonds for Life, if I'm just looking out for me and I'm not looking out for anyone else, that means I got one person looking out for me,
Right.
period. But if I'm looking out for you and I'm looking out for you guys out there, and then you guys in turn are doing that, for me, that means I've got thousands of people watching my back and I've got my eyes on helping other people as well.
Right.
So it pays to invest your time and invest some value and invest some effort into other people, because it pays back in droves.
Mhm.
And, and some people say, well, if I don't take care of me, nobody will. It's a very cynical way to look about it. And if you go through life that way, you're going to be very lonely, and it's just not going to be not a very happy existence, I guess would be a good way to say. But when you're willing to look out for other people and you train your people to do the same, now you've got an entire team of people looking out for you and an entire team of people looking out for one another.
Right.
And so wanted to mention that too.
And
So
the mindset to have when you're prospecting is, like he's saying, that you care for those people, because why else are you introducing an opportunity to them? Why else are you introducing the product to them? Is it because they need it? Is it because you have information that they need, that you're an information sharer? Or is it because you're hitting a goal?
Right.
Is it, what is the purpose behind your action? The purpose behind hitting your goal? If it is hitting a goal, that's not a big deal. That's totally fine.
Right.
Goals are a great thing to have, but what is the purpose that you have behind that goal? That's the fuel to push you to do that.
Right.
That is what we're trying to focus on.
Mhm.
That's the mindset that you should have, is correcting that mindset. If you're not having great luck, guess what? Reanalyze what you are doing in every single aspect that you are doing it in.
Right.
There's some people that I think maybe not have great results in certain aspects of marketing.
Mhm.
And the only thing that I know we've told thousands and thousands and thousands of people as success consultants for professional networkers is there are so many variables that go into that connection that you're making with somebody.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're using a method that's more a cold approach.
Right.
It has to do with the time of year. It has to do with how you're coming into contact with that person. It has to do with the time of day that you're coming in contact with the person.
Mhm.
It has to do with what they are going through in that moment, what you are going through in that moment, the information that you've equipped yourself with. There's so many variables that go into just that one moment that you have with that person. And that's why in every moment you give your 100%. And if after a couple weeks, that 100% turns out to, not yield any great results, reevaluate every single aspect of your prospecting efforts. Is it my mindset? Is it my words? Is it my demeanor? Is it, how I come at these conversations? Like, really reevaluate every aspect of what you're doing to figure out, is it just the time of year? Is it,
Right.
if I'm doing postcards, is it the lead source that I've used?
Right.
There's so many aspects that can go into this. So reevaluating every single thing that you do is like something that you should be doing, even if things are going 100% great.
Right.
Because if you're reevaluating and you figure out, oh, that's that perfect formula, then you know that it's
Right.
solid.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of variables in this. And that's something that is very tricky about this type of marketing.
Right.
Because to find that perfect formula, that perfect storm, if you will, it can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times that we've had situations where, our postcards, we test market them, they hit a great percentage, but then the lead source we're using, that lead source goes away,
Right.
or they close up or whatnot. Lead sources is really been something is one big variable that you as the person trying out the lead or trying the leads from us, you know, you're trusting us to have done the test marketing. So we do a lot of test marketing. There's been, many of you know, there's been many times where we've said, we don't have a good lead source right now.
Right.
So we're not doing our postcards because you're not going to get the responses.
Right.
Other times you get a lead source, and just like anyone else, just like any first date, they're going to put on their best impression
Right.
for the first 1,000 batch of leads. Then after that, you're getting leads that have been hashed and rehashed and rehashed. So
Yeah.
that's a variable that's hard for you as people in our support group. It's hard for you to be able to really manage that. We're managing that. But then there are times when the lead source is right and you nailed it. Like this time of year, it's tricky because people will set on an opportunity sometimes when the holidays come around,
Right.
and then they do it after the first of the year. So you might send out postcards now and get nothing,
Right.
and think, oh, it was dead. Those were dead. And then first of the year, some of those people start calling back because they're like, well, now the holidays are over. I want to start
Right.
fresh. It's
Well,
a new year. I
and
want to do
maybe
something new.
Even
You know?
because of the pandemic, maybe the holidays will be different this year.
Right.
You send out postcards and you get 200% responses
Yeah, I
on
mean,
all of it.
you
Like
just
you
don't
just don't know.
Right. Right. So there's a lot of variables in this, but what we're talking about is the things that you can control. And that is, once you've made that contact with a person, is making that personal connection with them. That's
Mhm.
something that you can control. That's something
Right.
that there isn't as many variables, because now you've gotten over that hump of
Yes.
getting that initial contact.
Yes.
The initial contact, that initial response, and that initial relationship that you start, we're talking about building and nurturing that,
Yes.
so that you build that into something that becomes a strong relationship for a future business together. So
It's a foundational principle.
yes.
So we teach on a lot of things,
Mhm.
and most of them are foundational. So it's like, even with all of these variables, if you make sure that you're connecting with each person you come in contact with, then you're doing at least that
Right.
to help yourself,
Exactly.
like at the very least.
Mhm.
So
Right on. All right. Well, kids, that's going to wrap it up for tonight.
yes.
Yep. So again, thank you so much, guys, for checking these out. And for those of you who check it out later on, we appreciate that as well. Always feel free to put questions in the comments section. We always check those out later on. And also, Kate, do you have any announcements on anything?
We're still
Contest,
doing
anything like that?
your contest your way. We've had a lot of people send us their goals for this first phase. So we're 11 days into the 30-day phase. If you're
Ooh.
wanting to participate, we
So
have
we're
two
third of the way.
winners. Yes,
All right,
we
cool.
have two winners, a product of your choice. I want to say the stakes only go higher, but that's really not true. The prize gets bigger as the phases
Oh,
go
there you go.
on. Yes.
Yeah.
So we are almost halfway through.
So it's kind of like a 12 days Christmas thing. They get better as it gets closer.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, that is accurate. Yep. So we're in this first phase. Get on it, guys. We have videos on our YouTube channel about the contest. You can also go to winwithdiamondsr4life.com/yourcontestyourway.html.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
I know.
How do you remember all that? Okay.
All right. Oh
All
yeah,
right.
we have training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday at 8 p.m. on each of those. You can go to DiamondsR4Life.events.com to check out the deets.
Now, next week we will have Thursday training, but the following week, which is Thanksgiving, we will not be having training that
Correct.
night. So I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys would I know you guys would have all been here.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, so we'll remind you of that next week as well, because we don't want you having to feel like you have to try and show up.
Right.
We aren't. We're gonna be stuffing our faces.
Or asleep.
Yeah.
In carb coma.
Yeah. So again, thank you guys very much. We'll see you next week. So it's Frankie, Shayne, Kate, Elaine, and we are out.
Bye, guys.